there's going to be no sector which is not going to be impacted by blockchain. I have a simple formula. It's called FITS.
Okay.
If it fits into that fits, yes. F stands for fraud. Whichever business has got an incidence of fraud or fraud could happen, that requires blockchain. You get your electricity bill every month, correct?
Yeah.
You see, okay, 1,500, whatever, you go online, pay, finish.
Yes.
You really check the number of usage. Do you check the usage? No. Okay.
Yeah.
I know for sure many utility companies, I'm not naming them, increase your units by 5 or 10% every month.
Hello everyone, we are MoogleLabs, an IT company based in Canada that offers services in all emerging technologies including AI, ML, blockchain, Web 3.0, Metaverse and so much more. In this interview, we sat with Mr. Raj Kapoor, the founder of Blockchain Alliance and Blockchain Governance Council, where we discussed the technology in detail. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Sakshi. I'm the marketing manager here at MoogleLabs, and I will be conducting the interview for today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Yep. I don't want to introduce myself. You can have my LinkedIn profile. It's too long and very boring. So, you know my name, Raj Kapoor.
Yes.
And as I say in India, naam to suna hi hoga. So yes, my name is Raj Kapoor. You know I'm from IBA, that is the India Blockchain Alliance. I'm the founder and chairman. And I live in the beautiful city called Panjim in Goa. And I work in 14 different countries across the globe. And advisor to the government of Goa, advisor to the government of India, and I'm on the board of advisory board of 60 Web3 companies. I think that's enough.
Okay. So have you always enjoyed like the world of tech? Is it something that you have always been interested in?
Actually, I never was from a tech space. I mean, I am 60 years old. So I'm 60. In the time when we passed out of college, there was no such thing as tech. There was only BCom karo, BSc karo, science karo, or whatever, So we did so tech was something very powerful. I'm a BCom student, and then I did an MBA, and I passed that out in 1982. So that's a really long time back. At that time, there were no computers to talk about as such. So tech was something very far away, not on my radar at all. In fact, I reworked on tech and rediscovered tech at the age of 48, that is in 2010, when I actually stumbled into the blockchain world. And from that time onwards, tech has been something very close to me. Not only blockchain, I'm well versed with AI, I'm well versed with cybersecurity, I'm well versed with IoT and data analytics. So it just got my interest. But it's in the last 13 years, I can now program in about 18 languages, and I've set up four different blockchains, layer one blockchains. So that's my journey, basically, from a non-techie to a techie, frankly speaking. But tech, I love. Yes, I actually do.
Okay, that's very late in life, and I'm glad to see you here. What was the idea behind Blockchain Governance Council?
See, we have two organizations. One is the India Blockchain Alliance, and one is the Blockchain Governance Council, which is a part of the India Blockchain Alliance. Okay. Now, in India, everybody talks about crypto, but very few people talk about blockchain. Yeah. So in 2018, I'm going a little step back from your first question, because it leads immediately to what is Blockchain Governance Council do. The India Blockchain Alliance was established in 2018 because we wanted to tell people that there's much more to this than crypto. Blockchain is the bigger picture. Crypto is just one part of it. Great use case, yeah, great, all good, but not the end of it. In India, everybody think, oh, crypto is everything, and blockchain is crypto, and crypto is blockchain. So we're to dispel that myth and to dispel thoughts around that, we set up this India Blockchain Alliance to make people understand the value of the technology called blockchain and how it differs from crypto. Obviously, it does. Also, I basically say I want to teach them what is speculation and what is the revolution. Speculation being crypto and the revolution being blockchain. So I took this step and said, let's set up IBA, and we started working with a lot of universities, colleges, etc., and started giving them understanding around this, writing curriculum, courses, etc. Now we work with more than 200 universities across the country. That's one part of it. Now, how did and then of course we did projects, we do advisory for corporates, etc. Now all that is fine, but the biggest problem in India and globally is one: there are no rules and regulations around crypto or any virtual digital assets or the blockchain space or the NFT or the metaverse or anything in the Web3 space. It's a pretty loosely put together system right now, ad hoc, community based. So there was a need to actually make people also, that is including our governments, understand that there has to be governance, there has to be standards, there have to be regulations, compliances, frameworks. Who's going to talk about it? So we decided that we will be the voice which talks to the government and gives the government inputs from global perspective and our own experience. Now, I've been in the blockchain space since 2010, which is a really long time back. 2008 is when blockchain was talked about first on 31st October by Satoshi Nakamoto's paper, and 2009 was the first transaction. By the end of 2010, accidentally, I was doing mining, and then accidentally it became a passion, and then my full-fledged business, so to speak. Okay. So a lot of our suggestions go in what's happening globally, what's happening in the US. We need to have our own set of regulations because we have our own criteria, our own culture. And therefore, we set up Blockchain Governing Council specifically for this purpose of making governments, making other stakeholders understand the value, importance, and how we approach it. And very happy to say that this year, just a few weeks back, 2 weeks back, I was speaking at the G20, speaking on governance, compliance, forensics in this space, and how and that paper hopefully will be submitted at the main event in September, October. So yes, the Governance Council became because there was a lot of ambiguity and gray area around this whole business of digital assets, virtual digital assets. So somebody needs to bell the cat. So we decided to do our bit at least. And there are a lot of people doing some good work. We're doing our bit. And we've submitted a lot of suggestions in this to the government.
That's amazing to know. And given that you have stakes in the technology, it does make sense for you to have a voice there as well, I guess. Okay, so on to my next question. What do you think is the potential of Metaverse?
Metaverse. One thing I'll tell you, it's hyped at this point of time. It's very hyped, although I love it myself personally. Now, what is the potential? Let me ask you directly. I think it has huge potential. However, it hasn't reached its potential. And there's a reason for it. I would like to tell you the reason why it has not reached and then how it will reach and what is the potential afterwards. It's because every Tom, Dick, and Harry suddenly decides, okay, crypto was going down. The crypto winter had set in. So every second Tom, Dick, and Harry, who was a so-called crypto expert, started becoming a metaverse expert because metaverse has been existing through, in what their opinion is, AR and VR. But metaverse is not AR and VR. It's not virtual reality. Virtual reality has been there for several years. So everybody thinks anything in the virtual reality is the metaverse. And that's where the problem is. A lot of corporates started jumping into the metaverse, but actually they were only doing an AR, VR, a little more advanced AR, VR, or augmented reality or mixed reality. So the metaverse has potential, especially in the branding space from a marketing perspective, only if you do it right. Without naming the ones in India, for example, a lot of people have jumped into it, but there has not been a single success story. And the success story has not been there because it's not really a metaverse. It's just an AR, VR experience. So unless you understand the metaverse for what it really brings to the table and what else you can do to exploit a great technology and a great extension of our internet, then it's going to be a problem. Where is the integration of the AI in it? Where is the integration of the semantic web? Where is the integration of NFTs? Where is the integration of DeFi? It's not all there. They're only using a little bit of AR, VR, and maybe some NFT component to it. That's not the metaverse. So the potential is massive. It's a massive industry. The numbers will go into trillions. However, we need to do it right. And we need to build the security protocols around metaverse. If you don't, it's going to be really a hell on wheels. And I don't think that's a good thing to happen for something which has a huge potential. Apart from just having potential in the marketing, it's got potential for the medical healthcare space, for the manufacturing space, great simulations, great in the education domain. There are multiple use cases. There are use cases where we are using, for example, in one of the South American countries, where we are actually trying to predict Amazon forest fires by simulations on the metaverse, so that a lot of people can have access and contribute to that. for another European company, we actually put a moot court there where actually people from all across the globe can actually sit down and contribute towards the particular case. So it's a great way of learning and going beyond boundaries anyways. That's one. More important, use cases are plenty. We must just do it right. It's still 5 years ahead, 8 years ahead from now, but it's there. And finally, the metaverse will only become mainstream when we have the right tools for it. We don't have, everybody can't afford an Oculus or, the headset.
Yeah, fair enough. That is also one of the major concerns.
All yours. So we need
yes, okay. So my next question is, I think you sort of covered it, but what are some of the pitfalls that companies are facing while incorporating metaverse into the operations? Just to highlight, because I think you already covered.
Apart from what I've said, the biggest pitfalls are a lot of people go digital agencies to create the metaverse. Guys, it's not a digital product. It's just one part of it, just one component of it. There are so many components. So they need to go to people who understand the Web3 completely, who understand all the components and how we can leverage each component of the metaverse. Unless you do that, you're just going to have AR, VR, like a nice, some experiences, but not real fun. I mean, we've all seen the AR and VR. When I was small, I saw a movie called Chota Chetan with the 3D glasses. I enjoyed it, right? But that was in 1970s and 80s, I'm talking about 70s and 80s. Now, that was a really long time back. It hasn't moved much from there. The needle has not really moved. We need to move that needle towards the real world use cases of what we can do with the metaverse. So that's, I think, is the next. Of course, the events are there, events are happening, but there's nothing to replace real life events. We all understand that. Yeah. But events can be more immersive. They can have more value additions. For example, we can have, there's one of the technologies we patented is how to bring in the sense of touch, taste, and smell in the metaverse, trying to make it even more realistic than how it is right now. Right now, it's pretty cold, like a cold fish. You can't shake hands with anybody. If somebody gives you flowers, all right, you don't know they're flowers. It could be anything. It could be an atom bomb for that matter. But bottom line is, you can get flowers, get the aroma of that. There's a dating app we created where we give my girlfriend a box of chocolates. She can actually order them, or he can order them for her physically. So there's a lot of things of real components of bringing NFTs, bringing in, the DeFi systems, bringing in payment gateways, bringing in the artificial intelligence to match like a Tinder does. So there's a lot of things. I think we need to really understand the metaverse completely to talk about the metaverse going forward.
How long do you think it is going to take for us to reach like that destination?
I see a runway of about 3 to 5 years now, because the second thing which will come up, if we cover all these things also, another thing will come up is security in the metaverse. Yeah. Security concerns will come up a lot. There is going to be a lot of issues. As it becomes more popular, a lot of elements which should not belong there will also be coming in. Avatars, there will be a duplication of avatars, unless there's a proper KYC, that again on the blockchain, along with other security protocols put inside, we're going to have problems. So all that is an evolving thing. It will always evolve. But a 3 to 5 year runway, I see when it becomes a little more mass adoption. As I said, until you have the headsets taken care of, like you're wearing glasses, for example, I need to wear something like that to enjoy that. I don't want to wear a big headset. I get a headache after 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. You need to have more people for a longer period of time. And that, I think, is going to be the success story. The longer you can get them inside, that's success for you.
Fair enough. An interesting take. Okay, so on to the next question. Web 3.0 is completely here to stay, it's pretty clear. How do you think it will impact user interaction in the future?
Web 3 is just like any other iteration. See, we had Web 1, we have Web 2, we have Web 3. Tomorrow we'll have Web 4, 5, whatever. But Web 3 is good from a perspective that it actually gets the power back in your hands as an individual, as a consumer. It allows me more freedom. It gives me more strength and gives me more meat. Right now, all the big boys make money on my data, right? Yes. Your data. Do you and I make it? No, we make nothing. They make billions, we make nothing from that data, and that data is ours, right? Yes. So I don't mind sharing my data if somebody asks me permission for it, or I decide not to share my data. That's my choice. In a democratic, we call ourselves democracy. We are in a democratic world. That's how it should be. It should not be the property of a few powerful tech giants. Web3 will bring the power back to you. It will bring in more content laws. Your content will be yours. Right now, anybody can put anything on the net and anybody else can claim it. That's mine. That won't happen anymore in Web3. So it's going to have a more authoritarian way of actually saying, well, that's yours. It'll be more responsive. It's going to be more a responsible web. It's going to be more immersive. It's also going to be more interactive. And more important, you as an individual, me as an individual, will have control over our content and data. I think that's going to be the biggest significant shift from Web 2 to Web 3. However, that's a long shift. We need to move from Web 2 to Web 2.5 before we even think about Web 3 in the long term, because again, mass adoption will take place over a period of time. We need to first make it simpler, move it to Web 2.5, make it easier, almost all features, but not yet there. Because everybody is not going to say, oh, when they talk about how to connect to the wallet, everybody goes, oh, what to do? A lot of people won't do it unless it becomes easier. It becomes a natural progression. Look at 10 years back. Who used Google Pay? Nobody used Google Pay. All of a sudden, everybody's using it, right? Whether I'm using it, my driver is using it, everybody's using it. And everybody's at ease with it. It has to be eased into. You cannot rush people into from Web 2 to Web 3. You've got to ease them into that. And I think that's the bottom line. Ease them gradually. I also see Web 2, Web 3 about 2, 3 years ahead, 4 years ahead from now. But the gradual movement has begun. And I'm glad it has begun, because giving the power back to you.
Fair enough. Early adopters are always there, but like obviously mass adoption will take some time. That is,
yeah, that's the natural progression of things. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, on to the next one then. How do you think blockchain will affect the future? We did talk about Web3, and to a certain degree, it uses blockchain, but what are the specific use cases there?
Yeah, in my opinion, blockchain is going to be all-pervading. When I say all-pervading, there is going to be no sector which is not going to be impacted by blockchain. Let's have a simple example. We get up in the morning, we brush our teeth, have a bath, shampoo, whatever. That supply chain which supplies that to you would be on the blockchain. Okay, in the future, where we can track and trace. Already, the Walmarts and a lot of other, Flipkarts, all are doing that. Now, tomorrow you're driving, you take an Uber or an Ola or share a cab. That would be soon moving onto the blockchain, because already there are a couple of companies doing that now. Then when you go to college, for example, your degrees, your mark sheets will be credentials, all the credentials will be on blockchain. I'm talking about a future scenario where almost everything will be on the blockchain. Then you go to work, your mark sheets, your verification, you take up a job, it'll all be on the blockchain. Verification can be done at the click of a button. If it's on the blockchain, because it's the single value of trust, a single technology, a platform of trust, then when you go in the evenings, you can have your KYC, which you don't have to show when you go to a pub or something that I'm above 18 or above 21. Your KYC can validate without having to actually show an Aadhaar card or a card or any card. With that, people don't need to have a card. They don't need to see your numbers and your data, personal data. They need to just validate. The validation will be done by blockchain. That's another one. So basically, a normal day will have that. So you can imagine the other sectors. The banking sector will be on the blockchain. Recently, Citibank has done it's a lot of transactions on the blockchain. We've got other 7 Indian banks making a consortium, putting the letters of credit on the blockchain. We've got a lot of insurance companies taking their processes, some of the processes on the blockchain. So the financial sector is the early adopter. In the e-governance space, look at India. India itself has got more than 90, government of India has got more than 90 plus projects on the blockchain. That includes e-governance, it includes supply chain, it includes, markets, logistics, warehousing, credentialing, everything, healthcare. So everything, whichever way you look at it, it is going to be on the blockchain. Your health records will be on the blockchain so that it can be accessible to all, instead of I don't know where my health records are right now. I really don't know. But once it's on the blockchain, I can go to any doctor anywhere in the world and then can access my records with my permission. Then you will have even things like charities on the blockchain. Charities, manufacturing, in fact, driving licenses, your own, we have a DSC. When we sign a document with the corporate affairs, the director or something, a DSCs, that would soon go on the blockchain. Why? I can't think of anything which blockchain doesn't have an impact on. If you just have to look at I have a simple formula. It's called FITS.
Okay.
If it fits into the fits, yes. F stands for fraud. Whichever business has got an incidence of fraud or fraud could happen, that requires blockchain. Information. Wherever there is a lot of information, whether it is through IoT devices or data analytics or AI, that requires blockchain. F, fraud. I, information. T is trust. wherever there are too many players. You,
Yes.
me, 10 other people, we don't know whom to trust, whom not to trust. But a platform, a technology you can trust will be blockchain. And S is, of course, security. The highest security layer would be blockchain because it's immutable. You cannot make changes. You cannot manipulate the system. And it's not owned by anybody. So if you have the fixed model, the fixed model is the future of blockchain. And almost every business fits into the fixed model.
Fits into this. Yes, fair enough. Okay, so you did talk about it already again, but several industries are already using blockchain and some are not. So where do you see the most untapped potential of blockchain technology? Like which
I see a
industry?
lot of untapped potential in the media space.
Okay.
Our media space, why? Because media has got a lot of content. Now, content means it owns ownership. Who gets the royalty? Who's the actual owner? Who decides the actual authenticity of it? There is so much. But there is nothing much happening, especially in India in that space. That's one space I see as a very major area for growth, exponential growth, because they have tons of data. And today, data is gold. That's one thing. Secondly, I see a supply chain. The supply chain also, because of the trust and the transparency that brings to the system, it reduces costs, increases efficiencies. I see that as another area. I see e-governance. Simple things like birth certificate, death certificate, driving license, police license, any licensing, wherever there is, that can be there. Healthcare, I see a big one. I can even see another one in credentialing. For example, when you go to a doctor, do you check his certificate? You don't check his certificate.
No.
You believe that he's a doctor, right?
Yes.
Now, that's a little bit of a problem in India. I mean, in many countries, in developing countries, because you really don't know whom you're going to meet. He may be a doctor because 20 people have told you that because he's been practicing for years, but that's a dangerous thing. I'm not saying all are doing that, but that's a space where you must look at and say, well, what about verification of the people whom we work with? If he's a heart surgeon, would you go to a heart surgeon for a brain surgery? You would not go to him, and vice versa. So we need to know whether the surgeon is what surgeon. I mean, we should be able to check a public ledger, which says, yes, this is who it is. We should be able to make our own decisions rather than just be blindly following somebody else and saying, oh, this guy's good. All right, fine. That's one way of doing it. But that's when you're in hospital, the physiotherapists, the nurses, do you know whether they're qualified? You don't know. You're at their mercy. And that's going to change over the future. So I think these are areas where there's going to be a lot of impact. The awareness must be there. And of course, that's healthcare is another area. Then another area which I see a lot of growth is in the utilities. When I say utilities, for example, I'll give a very simple example. There are multiple examples, but I'll give a simple example. In the utility space, for example, you get your electricity bill every month, correct?
Yeah.
You see, okay, 1,500, whatever, you go online, pay. Finish.
Yes.
You really check the number of usage. Do you check the usage? No. Okay.
Yeah.
I know for sure many utility companies, I'm not naming them, increase your units by 5 or 10% every month.
Okay.
Are you checking them? You're not checking them, right? Am I checking it? No way. I get the bill, I'll pay. Otherwise, they'll cut my electricity. I'm doing it first thing I get it. Okay. Everything else I can eat my food later, but I first pay my electricity bill, right? I need my electricity. So I'm just giving now. There's food for thought. Imagine if one consumer is getting, say, even 2 units more or 3 units more. Imagine the millions of consumers. Multiply that by the 2 or 3 units. Multiply by the 5 or 8 rupees per unit, and you got numbers which you won't get on a calculator. Fit on a calculator, right? Yes. That's now where blockchain can play a very major role. Blockchain can also play a major role in the social impact space. For example, there's a very good project called the Akshaya Patra project. The Akshaya Patra project, where all the midday meals are tracked and traced on the blockchain. So they know that they are being delivered to the children and not taken away by middlemen in the middle. That's another one. And there's a wonderful project called sea.earth, SEA.earth, captures and locks it onto a blockchain. With that, they make a predictive analysis of what could happen and therefore predict weather conditions. That is some good use cases of blockchain. So everywhere, I don't see any space which is going to be left behind personally.
Okay, fair enough. And let's see how long it takes before we get there. Now, on to something that we have already touched upon, but again, crypto regulations are already being discussed to a certain degree in the government. There are already talks about it. Do you think like, what is your opinion on them? Are they required? Are they not? How they should be drafted? What moving forward? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I see. See, we have a blockchain governing council, which basically does a lot of work on this. Now, to answer your question, are they required? Yes, they are required. Now, why are they required when they say, oh, this if it is required, then it becomes centralized? Well, I don't
Yes.
say it becomes centralized. Now, here's the little trick. You know, when you go out and buy gold, okay, you may have
Yes.
bought gold. You buy gold or you buy jewelry, okay,
Yes.
gold coins, gold bar, or you buy jewelry. When you buy jewelry, you'll buy an 18 karat or 22 karat jewelry, never a 24 karat. Why? Because
Yeah.
24 karat, jewelry doesn't set in 24 carats.
Yes. Exactly. You
You
need
need to
something.
put a little bit of an alloy in that, a little copper, and therefore make it 22 carats or 18 carats or below, whatever.
Yeah.
Then it sets. Why do we do that? The same thing we require. We require the regulation to dilute the rampant way this decentralized movements of data go. We need to bring
Okay.
some semblance into it. And therefore, you're just like diluting it from a 24 karat to 22 karat, doesn't lose value, it enhances the value. So you need regulation. It enhances the value. Regulation will enhance the value, also will give it legitimacy, which is right now, anybody talks about crypto, people look at it as, it's like
Yeah.
a plus word. It's not a great word to use, right? So
As of right now, especially after all
yeah.
things that.
So
Yeah.
yeah, even I would call it a virtual digital asset rather than call it a cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
But that's not how it should be. That's not the way it is. Crypto is nothing but a cryptographic. It's just like it's making something safe. It's a great word actually. But because of the lack, we hear of so many scams and things, rug pulls and people going haywire, FTX collapsing. Well, listen, guys, recently SVB Bank also collapsed, Westpac collapsed, Deutsche Bank is having problems. All centralized banks are also having problems. So
Also
the problem
collapsing.
is
Yeah.
not with, the problem is not with centralization and decentralization. That's not the argument here. Problem is centralized has some rules and regulations and has a safety net for both
Yeah.
all people.
Both parties.
We need a safety net. For example, recently you must have heard Binance. You could not withdraw your money from Binance just a few days back. Just today you can. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a little scary.
Yeah.
What happens? What happens if it's all stuck? Is there any insurance? Where's my money? Where's my token? Whom do I go to? Whom do I give a call? Is there a help desk? What is an exchange? An exchange is nothing. Exchange is a custodian. Nothing else is doing it. Cannot guarantee anything. Therefore, we need to have the rules and regulations. Yes, we need to have them in such a way that they don't completely dilute the value of a decentralized ledger or a decentralized system. They should not, but they should in fact enhance it. Therefore, that we need that value out there. We need we need the regulations. How should they be done? We should not be copying the West. We are copying the West. The West has a different system. They have a different fiscal system. They have a different financial system. We have a different system. We should make our own and get the right stakeholders. Right now, the government is talking to most stakeholders who are from maybe the crypto exchanges, not necessarily a holistic 360 degrees. We need all stakeholders. We should have people from the Reserve Bank. We should have people from the exchanges. We should have people who are blockchain experts. But the most important thing, which no government is doing, not many governments are doing right now, they don't have any technical people writing their policy.
Yeah.
Technical person will know the in and out of the technology, so he can give technology inputs from a policy perspective. They don't do that. All academic people are sitting down and writing policy. All the big four are taking up, oh, you are right policy, right? They have skills, they have a lot of knowledge. I'm not saying no, that is needed. But you also need somebody who's like, would you go to a doctor for a surgery? You will not go to him. The doctor can give you maybe symptomatic relief for a couple of illnesses, but you still will have to go to a specialist for something specific. That's the specialist we need in policy. It's missing. That is the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle. The jigsaw puzzle needs to be completed from a tech perspective, because they will know how technology works and how it bypasses and how it can be done. You don't have a technology guy, you're writing rubbish.
That's a fair assumption. So do you have like one thing that you would like to see in these regulations, or is it like still in that talks?
I said, I would like to see regulations in India as Indian. I want to see, like even McDonald's makes their McDonald's burger is an aloo tikki burger also in India. So you got to modify it to the country where you are in. McDonald's, you got to modify it for the country. As they say, when in Rome, you do as the Romans do. When in India, you do as the Indians do. you also need to have all stakeholders involved. Right now, their stakeholders are missing pieces. There are many missing pieces. What I would like to have from the company is just, yes, we can borrow him. We can have a look at what the West is doing, definitely, but we modify it, we adapt it, and we create solutions for it here. And we don't sit for years and years doing that. We do it ASAP. Let's take the leap. We can rectify, we can make changes as we go down the line. We will make mistakes on the way, but let's make a start. The problem is we are not making a start. That's the problem. I would like all of us to make a start in this. That's what's missing. The will to make a start. Let's make that start now.
That's a fair assumption of things. Thank you. And for the final question of the day, any book or podcast recommendations for all the listeners?
Well, I've been a big fan of Dan Tapscott. I learned my blockchain from Dan Tapscott books. So Dan Tapscott, Alex Tapscott, these are really good guys. But more important than podcasts and books, you know something? Every book and podcast has a great story. Read it as great stories.
Yeah.
However, from a perspective of learning, I think this is a subject you got to learn your own because it evolves so fast.
Nice.
A good source I have seen right now is LinkedIn Learning. I see that as fine. That is good, has good programs, a lot of them. I see that as good. I see Geeks for Beginners is nice. That I like. Blockchain 101 is great. And I think in the books category, I'm a little skeptical because books are all written with a profit motive. And I don't like that simply because, well, that's great to make a profit, but they only give their dimension or their version of this. You know, think of it as a nice story. Yeah. Enjoy the story and that's it. Then, but don't think that is the Bible. That's not the law. That's not what everything is. We have a very holistic approach. There are multiple blogs. There are Chris Chucks is a guy who has his blogs are really good. And I don't read too many of things because I don't want to get biased by it. I like to have a neutral aspect to it. So maybe I may not be the right person to answer what books and blogs it is, but I'll tell you one thing: keep your mind and heart open. That's your best blog and it's your best book. You read it from your heart. Enjoy it.
That's a very good take on life. Thank you so much for taking the time out for talking to us.
My pleasure, Sakshi. As I say, hasta la vista, till we meet again. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Stepping out. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.